to stay sober. Nobody expected anything more out of me.
That's in the beginning.
Yeah, and then God willing, we stay sober. People start to rely on us. They depend upon us. We become business owners. We become, all these things.
Well, guys, welcome. BDS is in the building once again, and welcome to the Situations YouTube channel. And it is fall. The cool weather is here. BDS wore his long sleeve, and I'm presenting you guys a new YouTube show, a talk show, a positive talk show where we are talking about people overcoming their obstacles. Everyone knows the comeback is always greater than the setback. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. And you're gonna see here today our first guest, how he overcame his obstacles to being his best self and living his best life. Please welcome to the building, Brandon Novak. Okay, he's celebrating 5 years clean and sober, a fellow MTV alumni, okay, and also a best-selling author. Now that right there is an awesome situation. Please welcome Brandon Novak.
Hey man, thanks a lot for having me. I'm truly honored to spend this time with you today, my friend.
I heard a lot about you and your story. I believe that you're celebrating 5 years clean and sober, so congratulations to you for that.
Yeah, it's truly a miracle. You know what I mean? If justice was due, I'd be dead years ago.
Oh, I like that. You got some good stuff. Okay, well, considering COVID times right now, how are you doing? How is the State of the Union in Philadelphia?
To be quite honest, I'm at the point now where I'm very ignorant to the outside surroundings, right? Because I'm literally living in my own world. I refuse to let the media dictate the outcome of my day.
Oh, I love that.
Because at first I want to tune in and be mindful, right? So I can be cautious and watch out for my fellow brothers and sisters. But I end up fucking leaving with more questions than answers, right? So, and then it really comes down to what outlet are you watching? I believe it's all politically and financially motivated. So whether it's CNN or Fox, you're getting Democratic or Republican. So I say, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna do what I do. I've learned through my sobriety is that my mentality will create the reality for which I live in.
Facts.
Right. So I'm aware of that, and I don't need to let somebody else dictate how my day is gonna go. Ignorance is bliss, but when you know you're to be held accountable. So what I've choose to do here is remain ignorant to the fact of what's going on with the pandemic, besides the fact of erring on the side of caution, washing my hands, wearing my mask. But besides that, I don't know what's going on. I still work out. I go outside. I jog. I do my normal deals, so I'm really ignorant to the fact of it.
Take me through a normal day of Brandon Novak. How do you cope with COVID, recovery, moving forward, trying to progress in life?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, we're in a really uncharted territory, if you will. But again, they taught me in treatment, if I changed my perception, I could change my world. So I simply choose to see this as us being divinely inconvenienced or convenienced, if you will, depending upon your perception. Right? How am I choosing to look at this? Because I know, right? Like how I started this out, if justice was due, I'd be dead fucking years ago. So I know the God of my understanding, my higher power, has not brought me this far to be like, all right, you're fucked. Good luck, right? That doesn't even make sense. And I've experienced the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I did a third step, and I've turned my will over to my God. So it's really freeing and reassuring to know that I'm not in control of anything. Right? Because the moment I put expectations on you, all I've simply just done is put unrealistic expectations on you, because you will absolutely let me down, right? As soon as I do that to people, places, and things, I'm sure to be let fucking down. And they've taught me in Alcoholics Anonymous, the number one offender is a resentment, right? So an expectation is nothing but an unfulfilled resentment. So I just choose to look at the life, look at this as like God really bringing me back to who I'm intended to be, a child of God, which means less like every year for my anniversary, I go to a different country and I get my medallion.
Damn.
My second year, I went to Paris and I got my medallion in Paris. My third year, I went to Amsterdam. My fourth year, I went to London. And then my fifth year, I was going to go somewhere and I couldn't, right? They shut the ports down to go out of the country. And it was the most memorable anniversary I had. I was in my home with my cats, and I like cleaned my house with like a nice cup of tea and really reflected on the day that I walked into my 13th treatment center 5 years ago, fresh off life support for 7 days. You know, so I really got to be with me and look at me for me and who I was and where I was at, as opposed to where I used to be. Because I'm sure, as you can relate, life gets so busy, I fucking forget what it was like when I came in sometimes.
I'll be honest, a lot of what you're saying, I am very impressed. And there is no secret why you are successful in life and in your recovery. It seems that you're in a constant search to better yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what a lot of people need to get in recovery. They need to sort of replace that obsession with bettering themselves and better behavior traits.
100%. Fuck, that was brilliant. You know, I in the beginning, getting sober was enough in the beginning.
Yes.
But now getting sober is not enough. Getting sober is merely just the fucking me opening the front door, right? And if I didn't get sober to live in a meeting 24/7. Not that anything's wrong with that.
Yes.
I'm not taking that away from anybody. But for me, I refuse to put a cap on what I can succeed in.
Sounds fantastic. So let me tell you, answer this one question for me. Where did you grow up?
Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what is the secret? I mean, both of us are celebrating 5 years continuous of recovery. What can you tell me? There's probably more than one answer. Is there a secret to being sober for this 5 years? Is there something? Is there a method to your madness?
Honestly, what I've come to understand is the longer that I stay sober, the less that I know. And in retrospect, looking back to how I ended up where I'm at today, after 13 attempts of treatment, lost count of outpatients and detoxes, my mother had bought me a plot, people had taken life insurance policies out on me, ended up on life support, medevaced 4 different hospitals, 4 different states, 4 different overdoses. Unfortunately, I always possessed this job that consisted of knowing everything, right? So thank you for kindly suggesting what I should do to better my life, but I'm going to kindly suggest why you should fuck off, because I know, right? And what I've come to understand is standing in the basement of my 13th inpatient treatment center, right, after being a New York Times top 10 selling author, being in these movies that broke box office records, former professional skateboarder, first skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade, hanging out with Michael Jordan. I'd come to the understanding that now, as a 38-year-old man, I find myself in a position where I want to kill myself on a daily basis, but I don't want to hurt myself in the process. I'm horrible at suicide because I keep waking up, and I'm in a position in life where I'm so low the curb looks like a skyscraper. I'm standing in the basement of my 13th treatment center next to a 19-year-old kid as he thumbs through these donation boxes looking for a pair of used underwear for me. Right. And I'm praying to God that he finds them, despite all those successful accolades that I shared with you. And the realization it hit me from possessing that job that consists of knowing everything for 24 years, I came to understanding that, you know what I do know is that I don't fucking know. And my very best thinking places me in a position like this time after time, meaning the common denominator in my problems was me, my thinking, my attitude, my behavior. So all of a sudden I'm like, that's what I can control, me. Right. And now that allowed me to remain open-minded just enough to be willing to say, hey, I can't do this, but Mike, you seem to be able to. Can you help me? And you took my hand and I followed your suggestions. And now I simply just got the fuck out of my way. And, you know, I always say, for the first time in my life, I walked into that treatment center with a lack of plan. Right? I was so beaten that I just couldn't put together any more plans. And that lack of plan has produced the best of plans, because it just allowed me to get the fuck out of my way and follow your suggestions.
I was about to ask you what was different on that 14th try that you fell on your 13th. Is it 13 or 14th that we fell?
13, God willing.
Yeah. I was about to ask you, but you kind of answered my own question, which was pretty cool. I want to ask you, now that you're clean and sober, I love when people ask me the question, what do you do now that you're clean and sober? It's almost like a trick question. It's so crazy that people ask you that question. But what do you do now that you're clean and sober? What can you do?
What I love to say is that sobriety has given me everything that drugs and alcohol ever promised me, right? And I mean that. And I've done some really fucking rad things high and drunk, right? I'm sure you can relate. Like I go to meetings and I hear some people say they're saying, which is cool. I don't agree with it because it's not my story. My worst day sober is better than my best day high. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's not my case. Some of the best experience I've had in my life were loaded, man. But that party ended a long time ago. And now what's really fun to me is like, when I'm done with you, I'll go to the grocery store today. I've worked out this morning. I have to go meet a decorator for this house that I'm buying that I'm turning into a recovery house, right? Because for so many years, I was so disconnected from reality and or abnormality. I was living on that animalistic level where I literally merely lived to use and used to live. That from an external point of view, my life might look rather fucking mundane and boring, but I've never been happier in my life.
Oh, I would definitely not agree that your life looks boring. You're pretty much doing everything to live your best life except drugs and alcohol, which will only bring you down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so right. Obviously, you and I, we both are employed with Banyan Treatment Center, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, right? When I put my hand up and I say I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, to break that down into layman's terms, it's a real simple thing that I just said. When I say I'm an alcoholic, all that means is that I'm defiant by nature, I hate authority, and I'll never, ever, ever conform unless it becomes my idea, right? Because I possess that job consists of knowing everything. So now what I do is I try to live this really rad life that allows me to pretty much do anything I want, go wherever I want, with whomever I want, whenever I want. And I kind of put this out on my outlets, right? On my platforms, and attached with the number so that people, when they see what I'm doing now as opposed to where I was then, they're like, if that dude, if Novak can do it, there's no reason why I can't. Can you help me? Right? It's all I'm doing is showing them my life in a form of attraction rather than promotion. And what happens when it becomes their idea and they pick that phone up that weighs a million pounds and call, is that the terms of their contract have now changed and we excel at a rapid pace. It has to become my idea though.
Now, if someone said to you, do you still have an obsessive personality or an addictive personality, what are you going to tell them?
I've had that complete psychic change due to the spiritual experience of my sobriety, and I am not who I used to be. And now I say I'm more OCD, if anything, and that's self-diagnosed, right? I didn't give a fuck about anything prior to sobriety. Now, if you come into my house, everything has a place. The laundry is done. There's no dishes in the sink. I'm very routine oriented, because I took heed to what they told me in treatment. They said, if you stick to the basics, kid, God willing, you never have to go back to the basics. So I'm very routine oriented. If that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it did. You pretty much said that you replaced some of those negative things for extremely positive things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when did your addiction begin?
My opinion is, and that's all this simply is my opinion, is that I was genetically predisposed. My father was an addict and his father was an addict. My mother and my brother and my sister by a different father are not. They can take it or leave it. My brother's an attorney in the White House who practices pensions and benefits. My mother's a nuclear physicist on the board of Mercy Hospital. My father ran with the Hells Angels. He never had a job a day in his life. He taught me one thing, if and when I go to prison, how to conduct myself. He acquired a taste of crack cocaine and his body shut down and he's no longer with us. But then at a very young age, right, my mother was working her way up the ladder to become who she is now. And she would leave me home with my father, who in turn would take me to the strip joint with him. And when he was in the back conducting business, he would sit me at the bar stool at the pub, and the pretty dancing girls would pour shots of ginger ale and Coca-Cola into the shot glasses. I would do the shots, the girls would dance, my father would give me that look of approval. So I could say that I was kind of, cultivated into that outcome, or it was genetically predisposed. Either way, it was. But then skateboard, I got my first skateboard at the age of 7, right? And that night my mother gave me my skateboard. She said, Brandon, what do you want me to do with this skateboard? I said, I want it in bed with me. And she said, why? I said, because if I die, I want it to go with me. The moment that board touched my hand, I knew I was going to be a professional skateboarder. What I didn't know then that I clearly see now is that I possessed this trait that my father, my mother, and my brother had, that I believe you and I also have, is despite any and all adverse consequences that came my way, I did what I had to do to get what I wanted to get. So from the age of 7, I get that first skateboard. I eat it, I breathe it, I sleep it, I dream it. At 14, I'm the first skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade, doing these commercials with Michael Jordan. At 15, I'm touring the world with Tony Hawk, designing my pro model for Pal Peralta. And that skateboard at that young age did for me what drugs and alcohol did later, right? You give me that skateboard at the age of 7, you put me in a room with the world's prettiest models. I'll not only believe that they're waiting for me, but that they're dying to marry me, right? And then drugs and alcohol produce that same effect later on down the road.
All right. So tell me how your experience it impacts some of the lives of others. How your experience with drugs and alcohol now impacts the lives of others. Maybe what you have gone through may have not been comfortable at the time, but now it serves a purpose for you to help other people.
Absolutely. You know, it simply comes down to that my defects have become my assets with the slightest shift of perception, right? And the very same thing that was killing me on a daily basis now, like, provides me a life beyond my wildest dreams. I've been able to oddly create this whole world, and it wasn't me. It's all due to my higher power. I've done nothing to take credit for any of this shit. I simply just wake up in the morning and stay out of my way. But I've been able to create this whole world that revolves around drugs and alcohol, literally from being an interventionist, from being a motivational speaker. My third book was just released, which is an autobiography, Addiction.
Congratulations.
I just, the first ever addiction graphic novel was released. I have a documentary that's going to like the Sundance and Cannes film festivals.
Damn, brother.
Work in treatment. I fucking, my pro model skateboard, I'm actually looking at it right now, for Element Skateboards, was just released on my 5-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
And thanks, man. And it's all due to fucking drugs and alcohol in a really weird way, and I don't even use them anymore.
So what you're saying is what was meant to destroy you sort of is, brought you to life to sort of help other people.
100%. And again, right, using my platforms to put out the fact that, like, I do this really rad outside of the box kind of life, and I believe I deliver it in such an attractive and appealing way that, God willing, the person that's still sick and suffering might like want to fuck it so bad that they actually pick that number up and call, because they say, dude, that guy Novak lives this really rad life. And he's not even the guy that he used to be. And they know who I used to be because you can see it in tabloids. You can read my books. You can fucking Google my name and it's there. I don't have to give you this spiel. I don't use car salesman, my deal at all. And they know that my message holds depth and weight. And they're like, if that guy can do it, there's no reason why I can't. And then they call, and that's the beautiful blessing. That really is.
Damn, I like your passion, man. I really do.
It's the one thing I know. Don't ask me how to like conduct brain surgery. Don't ask me how to prepare taxes. Like, I don't fucking know those answers. But if you ask me how to, and I just thought about it, no pun intended with that fucking statement.
No, I like it. I don't have an ego. Don't worry.
I wasn't even like going with that. But I tell people, like 24 years of active addiction, 13 treatment centers. I gave you my resume with that. Don't ask me how to like play tennis. Don't ask me how to fucking play golf. I don't have the answer to that. But what I can tell you about through and through is the disease of addiction and alcoholism. Because I was that guy that was deemed unhelpable and unfixable.
Dang, 13 treatment centers. Now, talk about the comeback is greater than the setback. Let me hear about you being a certified interventionalist.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Like I'm a very unconventional interventionist, if you will, right? I'm not the guy that, because I just put myself in the position of the man or woman that's receiving the intervention, right? And I've been on the other end of those fucking services many a times. And all of a sudden I walk into a room and there's like 8 people and they have letters and there's this weird guy in a suit and I don't know who the fuck he is or why he's in my house or how he's gotten through to my people. I'm immediately defiant, right? I immediately feel attacked.
We always are.
Yeah, right. So I'm very unconventional in that manner. And what I like to do is I show up and I meet the people where they're at, not where I believe they should be or where I expect them to be going. I connect with them where they're at, and I don't tell them anything about their life. As a matter of fact, I tell them I'm not here to like make you go to treatment. I'm not here to, my end game is not to like disrupt your life. What I'm here to do is tell you how your life's going to play out. I know it. Now, what you choose to do with that information is on you, right? Because they taught me in treatment, no human power can get us sober or keep us sober. So like, I'm merely just being God's messenger, maybe, if that's what he or she sees fit. That
God's work.
Yeah, man. So I don't go in with an agenda. I call it like I see it. And 9 times out of 10, I have a pretty good track record, whether it's because of my name and they know who I am, which I think holds some weight, or just my story. But I get them to take a walk with me, and I have them agreeing to go to treatment before the whole family has to even like say anything.
That's pretty dope, man.
I used to smoke, and I'd be like, let's go smoke, but now I don't fucking smoke. So I'm like, you smoke, and I'll just live vicariously through your unhealthy ways.
So tell me, you just recently released a book called The Streets of Baltimore. Please tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm stoked on
Congratulations, by the way.
On that was 8 years in the making. My first book, Dream Seller, was an autobiography addiction memoir that did insanely well. It sold over like 150,000 copies. It was recently printed in its 9th edition. 95% of books that are published don't make it past their first edition. And this sequel was the long-awaited waiting, for that. And people kind of gave up on it because I didn't stay sober. I wasn't sober when I wrote the first book, to tell you the truth. I was sniffing copious amounts of cocaine and drinking endless amounts of wine. Well, that was the thing, right? So the book does insanely well, the first book, and I'm like receiving hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail from people all over the world being like, Novak, I read your book. I didn't want my story to get as bad as yours. I have 30 days. I read your book. I understand when my daughter picks the needle as opposed to having dinner with me on the weekends. It's not that I'm a bad mom. It's that she suffers with a disease of addiction. My delusional alcoholic brain, the one that lies to me in my own voice that makes me believe the unbelievable, told me I just wrote the basic book, the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous, or the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so like you said before, you don't have an ego now. I fucking had a major one then. So if I'm writing this book that's doing so well and it's like a New York Times and I'm a certified addiction author, why would I ever walk into a treatment center and listen to you tell me about the 12 steps of God? That's insane, right? But like, I don't know why I went there. I just felt the need to go there. This next book, The Streets of Baltimore, was, it had big shoes to fill per se, right? Because my first one was my favorite one to write. And I really liked writing it because it allowed me to go back to that place without having to like physically go back to that place. And so I'm in rehab this time. And at this point, my people were finished with me, right? No one, even my assistant who was on my payroll, would only answer my call to see if I was okay. Like he wasn't, like people were finished. And in my rehab, the only person that would come see me was my co-author, a fellow by the name of Joe Franz, who filmed like tons of Viva La Bams, filmed the Jackass. And I didn't even like him at the time because I was so delusional. I had believed and I had attempted to sue him because I thought that he had ripped me off a lot of money. But that wasn't even true, right? Like I had made this up. Like literally, my brain was out of my fucking mind.
Yeah.
So he's the only one that's coming to visit me, and he comes to visit me, and he said, "Where's everybody?" And I'm like, "You're it." he's like, "That's sad. I'm the only one to come see you, and you don't even like me." and it was the truth. But in those sessions, me, him, and my therapist would sit down, and I put all my cards on the table. Because when I was using, everything was like a mental chess game. Whatever I told you had to align up with him, who then was going to tell my fiance the right, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, that sucks.
You know what? So and most of this shit was made up in my mind. So my therapist sits down with him and I lay all my cards on the table, and he had no idea that I'd ever felt like that. He showed me the paper, he showed me the records. There was no money, like whatever. But then he said, let's get started on the second book. I had no faith in this second book, right? Because I had wrote the first book doing a lot of cocaine and drinking a lot of wine. And when I was doing the cocaine, I believed that I would become very descriptive.
Did you finish that book quickly, or did it take forever to finish that
It took
one?
a year, but it took a year, but I wrote it in pen and paper. I don't fucking do like laptops. I pawn them well, but I don't use them. Like to do this with you today, I had to have my assistant walk me through getting on this. Like Banyan had to send me a laptop. I never had a laptop prior to Corona. So see, right? God's like saying, all right, it's time for you to maybe learn how to use a laptop. Yeah. I don't do emails. I really live in my own world.
Isn't life so much smoother now that you're sober and more focused on like positive things and bettering your life?
Dude, I travel nonstop as I did prior to sobriety, and people are like, how do you feel about it? And I'm like, it's a walk in the park now. I don't miss flights. I make them. I don't get kicked off of them. I don't destroy hotel rooms. I get paid and I come home with my money, and people actually want me back. It's like everything is like very easy.
Yeah, same. I'm on time for like everything these days.
And now I get so offended when people are not.
Yes. I have like a policy of like, there's really no excuses at the end of the day. You're either going to find a way to make it work, or there's going to be sort of an excuse.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because I know better now, right? Like I know that that's not the way that I should conduct business, because I don't want it done to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really weird. Everything that my mother taught me as a child growing up is what I live by today. Same. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal. I don't drink. I don't drug. And nothing good happens after midnight.
Damn, yo, I say that all the time, man. Keeping your side of the street clean. Life is just so much smoother. Everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody wants to give you work. And you feel so rewarded that you're helping other people. It's just, it's God's grace. It's awesome.
It really is. I was just on a call prior to being with you, and now I'm the keynote speaker for the DEA.
I heard about that. That's dope.
The DEA pays me now. Like college, I never went to. I didn't get my high school diploma. I got my GED in prison, right? But colleges pay me to come there. You know, like.
It's an awesome story. I got really choked up a couple months ago when New Jersey hit me up to be one of their speakers or representatives to, or a PSA about COVID and wearing a mask and things like that. And it was really big for me. So I really enjoyed that.
And again, it's nothing of my own doing. I'm not clever enough to paint myself in this picture for what you see me in. Left to my own devices, I'll put this whole fucking into a house and do a needle and bang it in my arm. Like that's what I'll do when I start thinking I know some shit, because my own devices looks like this. Brandon only attends Brandon's Anonymous. Brandon only sponsors Brandon, and Brandon is Brandon's God. And for the life of me, I'll be trying to figure out how the fuck I'm back on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park letting men blow me for another bag of heroin. Like, how'd I get there?
Damn, that's definitely a situation.
Yeah.
So tell me, you're writing the book, you're celebrating 5 years clean and sober. What else is happening in your life today?
Well, I'm really stoked about this. This Thursday, actually, I close on a house in Wilmington, Delaware, that I'm turning into a recovery house.
Oh, damn. That's dope.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. Again, defects becoming assets.
I like that.
And it's called Novak's house. And my goal with this is to own, and I hate the word, so pardon me, but a chain of these nationwide, you know, to really let people know that help is available.
Damn, man, I feel like you're like taking my ideas, man. I wanted to do the same thing.
You can fucking collaborate, dog.
Yes, yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's really awesome, and it's just so positive. You just saying that, like, that could only go well, to be honest. I mean, you're helping people.
That's what I learned, right? As long as my intentions are sincere and my motives are proper, I live a really prosperous life. The moment that there's an agenda, an ulterior motive, or it becomes financially driven, I don't sleep so well at nights, you know? And I'm telling you, I've just done my way to this point. I didn't go to like real estate school to buy houses. I just simply do what was suggested, and I remain open-minded and willing enough to follow your suggestions. Just stay out of my way, man. It's really easy.
Yeah, you're continuing to move forward, putting one foot in front of the other, and really just trying to continuing to find like your best self, which is really awesome. Really
Yeah,
is.
you know, every day that I know that I can do better than the last.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's an awesome mindset to have. What advice could you give someone that has to make a change? Maybe has to get into treatment. Maybe they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. What advice would you give them?
To just lay it down. Get the fuck out of your way.
Oh,
Like,
love it.
there's such an easier way to do this. And remember, it's not my writing on the wall. This is not me making educated guesses or giving you a hypothesis of what I believe will happen with your life. You have put yourself in this position. Your very best thinking has placed you here. I didn't do this. Mike didn't do it. Like we didn't wake up with a goal to fucking fuck you today and throw you in rehab. Like that's not the deal, right? Like that's not what I wanted to do today. And I remember being in treatment and I was going to this meeting every night at 10 o'clock meeting. And you know how things sometimes I believe, right? In retrospect, looking back, I can recognize the synchronicity in life's events that have led me to the here and now, which prove that my God is everything. And I remember sitting in this meeting and this guy said, if you're not happy with where you're at, take a look at who put you here. And I was like, wow, I didn't like it, but I couldn't refute it, right? Like my ex-fiance didn't put me there. My parole, like I did. And that started allowing me to take some personal responsibility for my actions. Right? I could no longer deny that I have a problem. I could no longer ignore that. And thank God.
For those people that are watching that might be new to recovery or just don't know about it, what do people even suggest to us? What are the suggestions? What are they? What do they suggest to us?
What I'll tell you is what I know for a fact. I'm not even make a fucking suggestion. This is what I know for a fact, that the disease of addiction is not a death sentence. Your history does not have to dictate your future, but it can most certainly guide and direct it. And as long as you're breathing, it's never too late. You cannot do this alone, but we can do this together.
Cool. Would you suggest someone that's new into recovery, should they get a sponsor or should they not get a sponsor? What is your answer?
My experience states that you should absolutely have a sponsor. 100%, no questions asked. But you know, it's weird because the sign of the times, this isn't a black and white one size fits all deal, right? Like if that were the case, I would have got it at treatment center number 1 at 17. I didn't get it till number 13 at 38. I debated for a lot of years and I shot dope for a lot of years. If I had the guide to a perfect life, I'd bottle it up, I'd sell it, I'd be a billionaire a billion times over. All I can simply do is tell you what worked for me. And it was only until I put my hand out, asked for a sponsor, he guided me through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, was my obsession removed and my desire lifted to want to drink and drug. And prior to that, I had done everything you could think of to not drink and drug. I moved to London. I moved to Paris. I moved to Helsinki, Finland. I had moved all over the United States. I had changed women, careers, all in hopes to like not live how I was living. And
so pretty much you found 1,000 ways to fail before you just said, you know what, my way's not working.
Again, I simply dumbed my way into it this time. They say a hard head makes for a soft ass. My ass is as soft as you could fucking imagine.
Wow. All right. Well, listen, this was a really eye-opening interview. Is there anything that you want to mention before we start to close this thing out?
Nah, man. Just I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their life. All I'm simply suggesting is find what you love to do. And if you believe it allows you an experience that you find worth opening your eyes for every day and getting out of your bed with a lust for life, then by all means, have at it.
Yes. Speaking of things that you love to do, I heard you love to skateboard.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And are you still skateboarding?
Yeah, I just filmed this I just went to Barcelona and filmed like a really rad video part. Right. So here's a cool story. At 16, I was designing my pro model for Pal Peralta. Right. I was designing my prototype. And at that point, I had found heroin. So I figured it was much more sensible to follow the path of heroin as opposed to skateboarding.
Nice.
So that dream literally died at 16. From 16 to 38, I was an active addict, and I lived to use and I used to live. And I never believed that like that dream could become a reality. And I didn't even try to do it. But as fate would have it, on my 5-year anniversary, I had went to Barcelona. I filmed this video part. I was going to release a video part on my 5-year anniversary at 43 years old, right? And I put like a proper video part that stands with like any other pros out there today. And on that 5-year anniversary, not only did I release my video part, but I released like 5-year, my pro model, and you can see it's like the jailhouse countdown. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I love the quote though underneath.
Yeah. So it's like, and that came out on my 5-year sober birthday. So again, man, sobriety has given me everything that drugs and alcohol ever promised me.
Well, this talk show is going to be about people overcoming obstacles, overcoming their demons. What would you say to someone that says it has been impossible for them, they don't think they can do it?
They just haven't failed enough at trying it. It's real simple. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Like, persistence pays bills.
Ooh. Yes, it does.
You can sit back and I can, have a lot of ill things to say about all these successful people because like I just never got the shot. They never paid enough attention to me. If I was only here, if that person wasn't such a fucking asshole. No, the reality is I simply didn't work hard enough to get what I wanted.
Oh, I love it. Now, I just saw on that skateboard a quote that said, tough times don't last, but tough people do. What does that mean to you?
When people ask me how I'm doing, I say way better than I deserve. I'm telling you, man, my mother had sold 3 homes to financially pay for me to go to 2 different treatment centers. I walked into treatment center number 13. Here, hold on real quick. I walked into treatment center number 13. Everything that I owned fit into this bag. And this was my life.
It's tough times right there.
With this fucking bag. And in this bag consisted of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, 1 stick of deodorant, a needle, a spoon, and a restraining order that my mother had served on me to be physically removed from her home.
Did you ever think that you were going to survive those times? Or those are some tough times right there. Did you ever think?
No. Well, you know what? I knew my life was going to play out one of 2 ways. I knew I was either going to get sober or I was going to die getting high. Right? Like I was never the guy that was like, yeah, I'm just going to get high successfully for the rest of my life. Yeah. I'm no fool by any means. I knew there was a better way out there, provided I just got out of my way.
Did you ever think that you would be the man that you are today, let's just say, I don't know, 5 to 7 years ago?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I still don't really know, it's funny. I still don't really know the man that I am today. Right. I'm still, it's really strange to me. And I don't think about it much unless I'm in a position like this where someone's asking me about it. But as I'm sure you can probably relate, life just gets really full, right? You know what I loved? I was talking to a sponsee last night, and he's like, man, I'm getting really tired of my recovery house. It's becoming so monotonous, and it's every day's like Groundhog's Day. And I said, I promise you, if I could trade positions with you for a month, I would do it in the blink of an eye. It was really nice when my only job was to stay sober. Nobody expected anything more out of me.
That's in the beginning.
Yeah, and then God willing, we stay sober. People start to rely on us. They depend upon us. We become business owners. We become, all these things. And it was nice when life was pretty simple. And it can be now, but I just simply continue to put one foot in front of the other without really thinking about it.
Wow. You really have an awesome story, and you're showing everyone around you that the comeback is greater than a setback. Thank you so much for sharing your story today and being our first guest on a new show sponsored by Banyan Treatment Centers called The Hope Dealer.
Hey, man, I was really honored that you asked, and I really enjoyed the vibe of this thing here. So thank you, my brother. And I look forward to meeting you in the future in real life.
Have a great rest of your day, brother, and I'm sure we'll link up soon. We're part of the same family, and I'll be honest with you, man, you're definitely not full of shit. I love your story. I love your vibe, and, you know, I got tingles just really speaking to you, man, because it's the truth.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that. Honestly, you know, that prior to meeting you, I knew you were coming on with Banyan, and I was like, hey, what's his, right? Contempt prior to investigation. You see this one thing, and I'm like, what's the dude's deal? And I'm fucking 100% honest. Not one person said one bad thing about you, not even at Banyan, just like in the recovery world, right? Because that matters a lot to me. I really don't address or deal with many people unless they have like a good program that they work. Because then I think there's always ulterior motives.
Yep. We walk it like we talk it out here.
Yeah, and nobody had one bad thing to say, so I was really honored to sit down with you today.
Yeah, same thing about you, man. It seems like the only way is up from here for both of us, so congratulations.
Man, I'm here if you ever need anything, brother.
Thank you, brother. We got a situation. Share, like, and subscribe.